Let me go back to Tyrone. Tyrone, you've made history. How old are you? You've made history. How do you feel?
I feel excited and satisfied after the long run, because considering the nature of the case, I mean, I wouldn't know how to understand it if it was really true that I can't be educated solely because I have dreadlocks. So I feel really excited.
And how, you've been back in school, what, yesterday?
Yes,
Yesterday
please.
you returned to school. How was school like?
Okay, when I first entered class, there was an exams ongoing. So I joined them and wrote it. And then I think after an hour, there was another exam paper, end of term, and thereafter it was closed.
What papers were they?
Okay, elective ICT and social studies.
Were they difficult?
Okay, not to me, I would say so.
Not for you, right?
Yes, please.
Okay, but having waited all this while to come and write exam, didn't that bother you a bit?
Well, it did, but I mean, I felt it shouldn't be that difficult because it's still SHS and yet still they are my colleagues, even though it's my first time. So I just had to calm down and try to understand everything correctly.
Okay. Now, I want to talk to you about living in Ghana as a young man or or a student, a teenager wearing dreadlocks. At what point did mommy and daddy speak to you? That's one. And at what point did you start noticing that people were looking at you differently?
Okay, earlier I could understand that having dreadlocks would make you look different from everyone else because not everyone has it. And I could also understand that the moment you are dreadlocks, you should be ready for anything. Because if I'm listening to old stories from experienced people, they are talking of potential discrimination and all other forms of unpleasant experiences. So those were some of the things I knew growing up with dreadlocks I would feel. But then looking with my dad and everything, I mean, it's my dad, so I thought like maybe just being a Rasta after all, I should be able to cope on well since he is also coping on well.
How much of an influence has your dad and your mom, have they been in, helping you keep your psyche with your identity and the society you exist in?
Okay, with my parents, I would say entirely, because right from the start, I know if I were alone or I was always on my own, I wouldn't have made it through. Because considering the harsh comments from the earlier times and then the thought of having to stay home in your first year, I believe it would have crushed me in some form. But with my parents constantly advising and talking about that it's going to be all well, very well, and with other people also saying it's going to be very well, I think that one kept me true.
Tell me about the worst encounter you've had because of your hair identity.
Okay.
Would it be this one?
I think so. Yeah, I think so, because I wasn't expecting anything like this back before the whole Achimota case. I mean, back at where I was at Omega, I was entirely one of them. Only I had dreadlocks, but no one really distinguished me that this guy is dreadlocks, so he's totally different from us. I was a part of them in every single activity. So I would say the Achimota case may be one of the worst things that happened to me. Yeah.
It's unfortunately, or I wouldn't call it unfortunately, but for good reason, Hineba and Krabia couldn't join us. But I've watched the both of you. I've followed the both of you. You made a passionate appeal at some point during all of this. I think he also did. And the reaction from many people is how brilliant the both of you are, how eloquent the both of you, and the questions I'm asking you and the way you are responding are evidence to that. At 17 years, this is what you're doing. You're out there in the world and people are getting to know and feel your brilliance. What kind of Tyrone are we going to see in the next 5-10 years? I'm excited to know who you will become and what you will do.
Okay, in the next 5-10 years, I'll still live up to my plans as an individual, to live a life and to create this sense of personality that everyone can benefit from. Because considering everything, if I decide to do something that's going to help me alone, it's somewhat going to be of selfish interest. Because there are problems, and there will always be problems in this nation and in the whole world as a whole. So as a person, I think in the next 5-10 years, I will definitely try my possible best to live a life that everyone can benefit from, including the nation and the whole world as a whole.
I'm watching you right now, and I'm feeling very sentimental. I don't know why though, because I don't know, but I'm feeling very emotional about this moment right now. I feel very happy for the both of you and for the both families. Anyway, viewers, forgive me. I'm having a moment here myself, watching him. He's young and he's I don't know. Well, congratulations to you and Oheneba as well, and to both families.